Okay, welcome back, and we're looking at the situation of retired Justice Salami rejecting the job of chairman of the Anti-Corruption Cases Trial Monitoring Committee. And you know, that is an initiative of the NJC, maybe because people were commenting that we're not seeing much traction in terms of the cases. The NJC, the whole judiciary, we don't really understand whose side they are on. Whereas lawyers explain to us that, look, there are processes. It's not, we can't be baying for blood. There are processes and all of that. So no doubt NJC, they came up with this idea of that, you know what, we should have an anti-corruption cases trial committee, trial monitoring committee. And so there would be, it would be a sort of a network of all the cases going on around the country, wherever they are. And so somebody would have their eye on it. A very, very important job. But Justice Salami has just said that it's not a job that is in his interest. And so, as people like that do, he, you know, what is it? What word shall I say? He respectfully declined the opportunity. Now we are hearing that, well, it's also possible to maybe rise above it, rise above the whole fray. But Justice Salami did add a bit to his cryptic answer of not in my interest, that where was this very judiciary during my trials? Well, everybody saw them messing me around here, but it's an in-house thing. Now these same people want to come and they somehow now think that I'm important enough to come and do this job. Why wasn't I important enough to get justice?
Well, you know, I was speaking before the break.
Sure. And you said this is a trial for NJC. Okay, let me just take Joshua in from Bida and then come to you. Good morning, Mr. Joshua. I think, in keeping with how it is today, you can't hear, but I can hear you. Please come on. It's good. Joshua?
Hello.
Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Uncle Yoria. Good morning to the guests of the house.
Good morning, sir.
How are you and how is the family?
Very, very well. Thank you very much.
Please, I want to correct a notion.
Sure.
So we are getting everybody owns his or herself. And it is not by force for an individual to serve a nation. Justice Salami has his own duty as a citizen of this very nation to choose to serve or not to serve a committee. And the way I look at it, and maybe that's where he sees it, this nation or our past leaders have rubbished him in time past. So he will not want to be rubbished again, because I believe he's a man of integrity. A person who knows his stand, who knows his onion, will not want to dance it, no matter what money or what financial inducement is involved. You know what committee work entails. He's the chairman, but he don't want to be rubbish. So I will want the nation to respect his opinion by not forcing him to dangle, and at the end of the day, his name will be dragged to the mud again. Thank you and God bless you.
Indeed, thank you very much. Justice Salami doesn't seem very much like a man who can be forced to do anything, considering his principled stance. I mean, there were places he could have compromised for the whole wahala to go away.
Yes.
I mean, he stood firm.
Yes.
So, back to you. How you see this as a test, really, for the NJC?
Well, precisely because you don't back out from a project which is conceived to be noble and pragmatic and purposeful. You take additional measures to be able to navigate and get around the constraints you find yourself. One of such constraints is the rejection of this appointment. The other is the composition of the committee. Now, to ensure that you don't throw away the baby with the bathwater, you needed ab initio to emphasize the question of consultation.
Okay.
And consultation will not be merely for those, the appointees. It could be a wider consultation to get the views of people who matter particularly in that sector.
Okay.
Now, that didn't happen, and we are now harvesting the implications
so
of all of those
indiscretion.
Very well.
right?
Now, and in doing that,
they have to make sure that these things you said that they omitted
does happen, so that you don't lose track. You don't lose track of the noble idea that you had. I've been issue
which I think is a very, very important point.
Mm.
Excuse me, please, because I want to bring Nanye in from Jos. Good morning, Nanye.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. I would like to observe respectfully that we got to hear the composition of that committee. I was a bit worried for the integrity of Justice Salami that we knew of when the news broke up and he was left alone. I also want to go with him that it's actually not in his interest, because if the composition was not gotten right, he was in that kind of thing and he was not backed up. And what are the assurances that he will have the backing of Nigerians and even the bench and the bar to do what is expected in his own integrity to protect himself? Mm-hmm. We know for a fact that it was in this country that a consultant pediatrician, a woman was called outside this nation to serve this nation, and she was rubbish and her integrity was put at stake. I'm sure it was in that light that Justice Salami is telling Nigerians and whoever is concerned that it is not in his interest for them to have him rubbish his integrity for as far as he was not rescued when he needed them, and then the composition of the committee is not even something to write home about. For that, some few names were seen there. I'm not a lawyer, but I think I've been following events, and I can say that there are people that are questionable, and so his integrity is at stake and his interest is not protected. Thank you, and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you, Naye, for calling in.
Sorry, if I could, on that issue of interest, not in my interest, first is to understand that the present Chief Justice of Nigeria wasn't the Chief Justice of Nigeria as at the time of that crisis, even if he was part of the NJC. At that level of the leadership of NJC. And therefore, no one should see it as a revenge against this president. It's an institutional challenge that he has. Then, as to
but there wasn't an institutional apology.
Well,
there wasn't.
Again, I have said he wasn't obligated to go beyond
an institutional acknowledgement that you've been hard done by.
In any
for
case,
the institution to
in any case, the interest that may be at stake could also be that, regardless of the composition, he accepts the job, goes into it, and begin to discharge the functions of his office. Mm-hmm. And there will be, in the same manner that we have seen in this country, a grand swell of opposition, insisting that he's doing what he's doing because of what happened in the past.
Yes. One moment, please. Sambo in Kano, good morning. Sambo in Kano. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Please go ahead.
I think on the issue at hand. Yeah, good morning, sir. Hello?
Hello, Sambo. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. I think on the issue at hand, integrity. If Justice Salami, which I so much respect his opinion, I'd say the issue at hand, I think, is an issue of integrity. If Justice Salami feels he's not...
Okay. But at the bottom of all of this, I like what Malaki said, that, look, this is an idea that is purposeful, that is actually needed. Yes. You know, because, you know, I imagine this was a response to also public commentary that the judiciary was not, from the point of view of non-learned people, not pulling its weight at all. Lawyers, of course, calm us down a bit by explaining all sorts of things. But from the point of view of the common man, the ordinary person, and at the end of the day, the courts are for really society, they've come up with this device. So Malaki spoke about not throwing the baby out with the bath water. And so maybe this is an idea that you think it's been messed up, but it's not an idea we should let go of, right? Would you, is that what you...
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. There's no doubt about that. Even the people that have been criticizing the composition all they wanted was the change, that this committee can deliver results. And I think NJC shouldn't get discouraged because of this incident. They need to...
They just need to...
They just need
do
to
their
more
homework
consultation.
And do it again.
Yes, because if you're going to undo corruption issues, investigate corruption issues that have to do with judges, this is not it's not job, it's not a mere job. So they're going to throw a lot of things into the wheel, of spanner to the wheel to make sure they derail the committee. Okay. So you need to come clean first.
That's another...
Actually, the members of that committee need to come clean.
Okay.
Because the job at hand is not an easy job. Well, they will come after them.
Members of the committee,
they will derail them.
Members of the committee coming clean is one thing, but why were those people who need to come clean why would they be put in that committee is one of the things that a lot of people are still
I think that is the area NJC needs to look at very well. They shouldn't give up. They shouldn't throw away this initiative.
Okay, it's a good idea.
They need to look at it again, that it can meet up to the required standard to fight corruption.
Mr. Ekpeyong, good morning. Ekpeyong.
Yes, good morning, my uncle.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, okay. Please, we are talking about, the problem is the issue of corruption in our country. I do not know why we are toying with something that is already killing or something that has already killed this country. You know, we are not, it's like we are not really ready to take the bull by the horn. What is all about heading a committee? Please, I am qualified to be in that committee. And I know the problem is corruption. I do not want this corruption to consume my children. He has already consumed me. He has consumed a lot of us. And we know the people. Let us rise up and dismantle that so-called Senate. All those corrupt former governors, we have to send them to jail and free our country from the bondage of corruption. I do not know why we are wasting time. I think we do not know what to do. And I think we do not know who are the corrupt people. My uncle, let us rise up and sack the National Assembly. Let us sack those corrupt people from National Assembly.
Okay, but Mr.
Bundle them to prison. They are not
Mr. Ekpeyong,
supposed to live among us. They have killed our country. They have completely destabilized this country.
Okay.
What is remaining?
Thank you, Mr. Ekpeyong. Can you hear me?
Tell them to put my name in that committee.
Okay, but what do you have an opinion on justice?
Some of them need to be hanged.
All right.
Some of them need to be hanged. They are worse than armed robbers.
Thank you very much for calling in. We really appreciate your call. Thank you very, very much for calling in. The lines are so bad I couldn't speak with Mr. Ekpeyong. I wanted to get his take on Justice Salami declining this offer, the offer of this position. But he expanded it a bit, and but he was right when he said it's all about corruption, right? Well, it is, in the sense that it's the fight against corruption. We're talking about the Anti-Corruption Cases Trial Monitoring Committee, which seems like a great idea set up by the Chief Justice. But people have issues with the composition, and then Justice Salami, who was nominated as the head, has issues with other things, not least of which is, oh, thank you very much, NJC. So where were you when everything was going on, when it was hitting the fan, and when I needed a voice to show that, you know, this is what we are. We are principled people in this place. NJC is not bereft of principled people, the whole judiciary. No, but everybody kept quiet then, right? So now you come around and it's just not going to happen. But there are those who are saying that smacks of an eye for an eye, and that he might have wanted to see it differently. But what does Mr. Matthew in the UK think? Good morning.
Good morning, Yuri.
Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, and good morning to your guest, yeah?
Sure.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to align with your former caller, Mr. George.
Okay.
You cannot correct anything from outside. You must be inside to correct issues. I cannot understand the problem of Justice Salami, what he went through before. But he should put the interests of the nation first, before his own interest. Like somebody who called Mr. Ekpeyong called, he mentioned about what the Senate has done, the corruption in the country, that his children has been, he does not want his children to go the same thing or the same condition he has gone. So if he put those things in consideration, he should do the job and correct the abnormalities in that very justice system. So you cannot correct from outside, you should correct from inside. For me, what he should have done is to select the committee, tell the president, yes, I'm going to do this job, or to give him free hand to select the people that are going to do the job with.
Yes.
If the president said no, that's why he can opt out. But at this moment, I think he should reconsider his position. Thank you, Yori.
All right. Thank you very much for calling in, Matthew. Interesting point.
Yes.
But all of this is like putting the cart before the horse.
Correct.
If they had alerted Justice Salami before anybody else, all of us knew that this is what we're thinking, we want you to head this body for us, please, as a national service, then the man would have looked at the list and had said, my lord, you know, subject to this, this, and this, there's no problem. Or, you know, but now Justice Salami has closed the gate.
I had earlier remarked that you couldn't have discountenance the very important essence of consultation. And that for me is significant, because if we now run a country in which persons after persons reject awards, reject appointment, it becomes a very sad commentary.
Indeed.
And it becomes a serious pointer to the failure of the state as an institution that needed to attract, you know, the best of its citizenry.
So we need to get that process
and for
right.
me, that is one big point that has elevated the narrative and the discussion. It is that we are now dealing with a country in which individual members populating the society itself no longer feel that affinity, that disposition to be part of a process that can reinvent that society.
They feel isolated.
That is my real worry. And it's taking away the best that we have.
Indeed.
Just opposing, substituting them for all manner of persons who...
Because unfortunately the country, for whatever its own reasons are, you know, messes with those people, isolates them as much as possible. As soon as it is seen that you have any sort of capability or whatever, or integrity, they want to break you, let it be said, which is very, very lamentable. Mr. Isiaka Mboko, good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning to your guest over there.
Indeed.
Morning.
I really appreciate the good work that you people are doing, and it's quite commendable. Aside from that, the issue of Justice Salami, though I'm young, I don't know much about it, but I read about it. He's the young one. He's not encouraging us.
Okay.
I'm saying the fact, and I wish that hearing it. He's not getting of the young one. I will get one thing. We are listening from them. You understand? Quickly reject. How can you fight because that is outside is nothing? You understand? If it's backward, another day I think another person because of integrity is backward, who will change the system? That's the question, man. I say, please, for the sake of Nigeria and the younger generation that are coming, that are millions from home, and we will be please, we should come over and start this country and salvage this country. That way, and we should forget about the composition. I be telling you about the way you meant. I say, what is this?
Yeah.
Forget about that. It is not a system. They cannot change the system.
Okay. Okay.
I'm saying the father to us.
Okay.
We look up to it. Based on what I read about him, I don't know much about him.
Okay. Thank you very much.
People have a man.
Well, thank you very much for calling in. Interesting points that are being made both for and against, but I would dare speculate that Justice Salami's argument, I mean, Justice Salami's the attitude, response to this would seem, and this is speculation on my part, that the man doesn't think we're really serious about fighting corruption. That's my speculation right up there. Because I could argue for that point of view, you know, from a lot of things that is going on. People have spoken about once bitten, twice shy. This system messed you up before. This is the same system that is now calling on you. It must be that after long consideration, the justice has decided that I'm not too sure that we really are sincere.
That speculation is not far-fetched. is founded. And it derives from practical, concrete experiences. That the whole challenge I had was a contest between corruption, or the fight against corruption, and the indisposition to fight corruption. I found myself in that mess, which I never created, but in respect of which an institution driven by the principles of integrity and anti-corruption ought to be firm and clear.
Decisive.
That didn't happen.
Okay. Ali, calling in from Biu. Good morning.
Yes. Good morning.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Let me go straight to my opinion.
Sure.
I respect Salami in person and his decision regarding this assignment given to him. But I think Salami ought to have seen that this is not a personal issue, as it affects public interest. Whatever wrong done to him by the government, or judiciary in particular, was because people like him were not given that opportunity to serve well. Lastly, I would like to agree with George on this, the previous caller, that he should have accepted the assignment given to him with condition guiding his principles. I think that is my opinion regarding this topic.
All
and
right,
please to correct my name there, the name is not only Ali, it's Kaumi Minor Ali, that's the name.
Oh, so sorry about that. Thank you very much, Mr. Kaina Ali. There's one other name in there.
So that I don't commit more.
Yes, so that I don't commit more error. But the Kaina part was missing. Thank you very much for your contribution. You heard it, Daniel. This is an interesting.
Many people are saying George now.
Yes, that he should have just, you know, what is the English for 411? You know,
yes,
he should have just done like that.
Yeah, I think coming back to your assumption.
I wanted you to tackle that assumption. That
he might were not
feel
serious
that you're not really serious about this. And I have just 30 seconds.
Your assumption could be valid, because even from the angle of NJC, at the get-go, the way they went about this was not impressive.
Okay, well, let's leave it there. We don't have much more time. Malaki has said it. You have also said it. Interesting mix of views. On the one hand, yes, Justice, we understand you. On the other hand, well, because it's you could have sacrificed yourself because it's not personal. This is national.
Even if it throws up the debate about the quality of a nation we now run,
yes,
where after people reject appointments and
that's
awards.
a sorry state of affairs. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Malaki Ugumadu and Daniel Akinlami. Appreciate your perspectives and your views. So that's our program for today and indeed the week. We'll see you, God willing, Monday, 10:30 with a fresh edition of the program. I'm Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now. Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. I was just checking again, you know, one of the stories, and it's about, well, Justice Salami, and by now, something of a quote, in rejecting the job, or, you know, this whole matter of a committee that will be monitoring progress of anti-corruption cases. Not in my interest, said the justice, as he refused the appointment. Very interesting. So what does not in my interest mean? Why wouldn't you take the job? Justice Salami wouldn't say more than not in my interest. Of course, the usual, having consulted widely and all of that. But he did say that. So where exactly was this judiciary during my travails? Nobody's talking about that. So you're going to just paper everything over now and make me chairman of this special committee and everything is honky-dory? Well, not exactly so, according to Justice Salami, and hence the caption we have today, no thanks, not in my interest. Okay, well, today we got Mr. Malaki Ogumadu. He's a lawyer and national president of Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. In fact, Malaki, you were here when we first of all talked about this subject when the news broke.
All right.
Indeed. Thank you very much for coming. And we also have Mr. Daniel Akinlami, who is a public affairs analyst. Thank you very much for coming as well.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed, well, it's a surprise. Initially, it was thought to be a rumor, but then it's come, it's spoken with Justice Salami, and he has said it is indeed the case that he has written to the Chief Justice that he's not interested. Now, the question, not in my interest, was the main reason. There might have been ancillary ones, consulted widely and all of that. But when pressed to expatiate a bit, he had said that it's just not in my interest. The very judiciary that is now giving me this, shall we say, honorable role, where was it during my trial? So could he silently have been actually throwing out the barb of hypocrisy there?
Well, I think it will serve the purpose of this discussion if we fully recognize that all is within the realm of speculation, particularly when my Lord, Honorable Justice Ayo Salami, refused to give details.
Well, but there's no speculation about his having rejected the job.
That is settled.
Okay.
The reasons are precisely what I mean, that not much has been supplied, and he's not obligated, as it were, to go beyond what he has volunteered as reasons. Again, is the point that Nigeria is not actually in short supply of men of integrity, character, and principle that reject not just appointment, inclusive of awards. Late Chinua Achebe was, reputed to have done very dramatically in his award that he rejected. My humble self in 1996, I was in my third year, rejected Professor U.D. Gonworth's appointment as the Student Union Secretary. He was appointed by the military, and we had taken a position that we're going to fight the military. We had also resolved that the student union government should be democratized. And while we were in detention, he extended an offer of appointment, creating a critical student union movement, and then appointed me the General Secretary. I insisted that the letter should be collected. Mm-hmm. As we were taking the letter, the rejection letter was submitted. So I'm making the point that it has to do with the principles and character of the person in question. Once Honorable Justice Ayo Salami, in my view, juxtaposed the assignment and the trajectory of his own experience, even in the judiciary, I imagine he came to the conclusion that it will not just be contradictory, mm-hmm. It will indeed lend credence to what the debate was against him. And therefore, to situate the issue concretely within the context of history was to take this very bold and principled step again to remind Nigeria that beyond the monies and budgetary allocations we make and spend, the moral firmament of the nation should not be thrown overboard. And that it will take men of character, as I repeat, and principle to further consolidate on issues of character and principle, just so that we don't completely derail, as we are bound to do. And the judiciary should absorb it. one would have imagined that effective consultations ought to have preceded
the announcement of the appointment.
I can assure you that there are so many Nigerians who are waiting for such opportunity to make a loud statement. That look, except we get our ass together in this country, and at this time, we will all answer to our rules before our Creator.
Now, Daniel, there is the speculative part, because you could begin to analyze, you know, ad infinitum, what exactly not in my interest means in the context. But perhaps that might be wasting time a bit. What's your thought on, there's a sense in which, you know, Justice Salami hasn't let bygones be bygones, ever so gentlemanly, you know, ever so refined in his methodology. But no thanks, not in my interest. I don't want that NJC job of the, chairman of the Anti-Corruption Cases Trial Monitoring Committee, which was set up by the NJC. And the way we do things slackly in this country, let it be said, Malaki ended on it. Why would they not have done their homework thoroughly? Why would they not have seen that the man was available for the job? Because none of this helps push forward the objective all of us identify with, which is to fight this corruption. And Justice Salami himself would be at the forefront of such a fight, but not anyhow. There is a way we have to do this thing to maintain our integrity. So what's your take on Justice Salami, as it were, not letting bygones be bygones?
Well, I think it's still going to be very difficult, like Mr. Malaki said, to really try to dissect the details and his true intention. But I think we can take the surface intention for now.
But what details are you talking
rejection
about? Sir,
of the
sir,
appointment.
what details are there? There are no details. You come and appoint a man, you know, chairman of this, you know, noble body. Apparently, you didn't consult thoroughly with him. The man remembers history, very, very recent Nigerian judicial history, if you want, and says, no thanks. Why? It's not in my interest. There's no details.
Yeah, obviously, the errors in this decision by NJC were obvious from get-go. And no matter how good intention was, after all, the country has been pushing for the judiciary to get involved in the fight against corruption in the past 2-3 years. And the first time they are forthcoming to do something tangible,
yes,
it was not well thought out. Look at the composition of the committee. As soon as the names were announced, a lot of people had objection to some individuals there.
But we need to say, but we need to say, sir, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, Justice Salami was asked about the composition. Was it because you went down with the composition and said, no, it's not that? So I just wanted to put that in there, that yes, it's not that.
Definitely, if we really want to take the lesson in this incident, the moral aspect of it should outweigh Justice Salami's personal issue with the judiciary. So, assuming there was something like that. So, if he had an issue when he was facing challenges and trial and the judiciary didn't stand by him, you know, that's a different thing entirely. From the intention of this committee to fight corruption, to watch over the corruption cases. And I think his own position for now, that he can't go ahead to serve in this committee, has already made a very clear point. The public has been agog with the issues,
yes,
especially about some individuals, some of the so-called members of this committee that had issues in court defending the alleged corrupt people. And so how are you going to come on board to work with such individuals? So there will be conflict of interest. So, and I think on that ground, he has made a good decision. So, but on the area of his personal issue,
because it seems that Malaki spoke about principles, character, and
yes,
a perception of your character. Definitely. We have a perception of Mr. President's character, for instance. Definitely. So there's a perception of the man's character. There's also the matter of principle. And so, as he asked the very pointed question, so where was the judiciary during my travels? Where were they? This very judiciary that now needs me and is going to honor me by this appointment. So where were they in terms of doing things rightly?
If we're to be patriotic,
Okay.
if this committee do not have SS baggage, it does not carry those burden along with the composition. The issue that Justice Salami had with the judiciary could have been waved aside.
I see.
He would have come on board to serve the nation.
Okay, okay. So
the
had it been
composition of this committee also gave the leeway.
Well, that's your speculation.
Yes, it's also gave the leeway for
the justice was very
to really think clearly and think very well about what he's putting.
I hear you. But I have to keep on putting it in there that Justice Salami has fortunately for us and for this conversation, he has said that is not the issue. It is not the issue of composition. Now, whether, of course, you want to take that with a bit of salt or not is another matter, but at least from the horse's mouth, no, it's not about the composition. It's a matter about not in my interest, which again, is open to interpretation. Yes. But I very much like Malachi's suggestion that, look, there are principles involved here. Morality is involved, principles involved, the perception of a person's character, because he hasn't compromised, I don't think, from the point of view of many observers. He hasn't compromised his stance. He bit the bullet, so to speak. Whatever will happen, let it be. I'm standing on this principle. You now come around now, and as Malachi has said, Nigerians are not scarce. We don't have, there are Nigerians who have declined to partake of elevation, promotion, decoration. There are lists that go on and on. Apparently, Justice Salami is saying that I'm not an alien to those kind of people as well, right, Malachi?
Correct. The question nudges me to repeat precisely what I've said and to reaffirm that quite a number of Nigerians, some of them not highly celebrated individuals in the public opinion, so many, every strata of our nation. But you see, the business of nation building.
But because this was, I think, something about mending fences, I would like to now speculate.
I would imagine that that is how he sees it.
The NJC and the justice,
yes, and
trying to mend fences.
Correct. And what's he? First, I think that we need to be a bit charitable to NJC. We've had occasions where we complained, even as practitioners of law, against the attitude of NJC. But I imagine that NJC, in this instance, felt the need to answer the call and the mood and respond to the mood of the nation by proactively taking steps in furtherance of, again, the very battered perception of the judiciary, particularly relating to the issues of corruption and anti-corruption generally.
Okay.
But like we've all agreed, the strategy of getting that done was a bit faulty.
Okay.
I had complained about the composition and I gave reasons why that can effectively be a very big stumbling block. Namely that all over the world, all jurisdictions where law is practiced and the law profession is known, you don't see lawyers constituting themselves into a supervisory body over the judiciary.
Okay.
In this instance, you even have, in that composition, persons, by their own rights, who have cases before these judges.
Okay.
That contradiction.
One moment, please. Let me, Mr. Akinola Inikeja wants to join the conversation. Good morning. Akinola Ikeja, good morning. Well, as you were saying, well, here you're going to... Mr. Akinola, you are ready. Mr. Akinola? Okay.
So, then in the business of nation building, actions, rejections of appointments such as this, behaviors and dispositions of persons can indeed elevate the discourse. For me, the rejection of this appointment has helped in so many respects to raise the bars of the discussion around the question of processes and integrity in this country.
Okay, sorry, someone else is coming. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Mr. George in Ikeja, good morning. Mr. George, good morning. I think there's a problem with them hearing us. Can you hear us, Mr. George?
Good morning, Uncle Yori. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Just show your hand so that, because I can't hear voices.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me, Uncle Yori?
Yes. Yes.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. Uncle Yori, in the absence of Justice Salami, giving reasons for his rejection, one can only speculate what his reasons might be. But if I were him, I would not revenge because of the treatment that was meted out to him. Upright people do not revenge. We are told that vengeance is for the Lord God and not for man. If he begins to revenge, he will have brought himself to the level of those that were accusing him, if not below them, and he would be one carrying the guilt. If I were Justice Salami, I would accept the appointment with conditions. Yes, it is true that many of the members in that panel, in that committee, they have questionable characteristics. You give conditions that those members should be removed, or he should be given opportunities to select those he wants to work with. It is when the government or when the CGN is not able to do that, that he can now say, well, since you are not able to fulfill my conditions, I will not be able to serve under the conditions you have spelled out for me. That would be justified. Okay. That would be wise. But to be revenging is not it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in. Okay, Mr. George, see this as revenge. The man was quite cryptic.
Yes.
Just not in my interest.
Yes. And there was some measure of discretion. The man who had just called could hold that view, and it's tenable. However, in my view, a revenge would have meant that he goes in there and begin to abuse the power and dispense or discharge the office of that, the functions of that office, targeting even the judiciary, and that would be the revenge.
Well, but hardly likely from a man of his caliber.
So, so in my view, there was no rejection. It is so much about that principle that guides a man of conscience.
This is something we're going to come back to, but let me bring in Mazi Okoroa for calling in from Arochukwu. Good morning, Mazi. Mazi, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Good morning, Sayori. Good morning, our guests in the studio. That's a compliment from Arochukwu. You see, Sayori, I thank God for Justice Salami. He's a man of proven integrity, an icon, and a man of morals of the 21st century in our judiciary. You see, Justice Salami suffered during that turbulent period. He was facing that time, honestly speaking, I, as a human being, I pitied him during that turbulent period, because the way the court were just telling him that during that period, is it not the man that we used to know when he sit up and the justice from one level to another, they were turning him up and down in the court. So John Salami knows what he's doing. But the thing is this, like Mr. George said, that vengeance is for God. Yes, it's not good to pay back something, but the Bible says you forgive and forget, not forgive. There are two things, to forgive and to forget. So, but I think it's based on his own concept and his own integrity and his own articulate thing that he said, no, let it be God. This is exactly what is obtainable in outside the country, that's in Europe. When he said that, no, I don't want to date my image or my personality, let me go home and rest. I think, I thank God, that he has to lead him. And so that he has agreed that he is no longer interested, he will not do that job. Let him go, because he has done a job as a man. Thank you very much, and have a blessed and a fruitful weekend to all of you.
Thank you very much, Mazi. David, I can see that you want to weigh in on this matter. We're getting, people are beginning to sort of analyze the very little that has been said about this matter. All he has allowed is it's not in my interest. So I'm not taking that. I'm not taking that job. But there is a history, and he did add somewhere along the line, according to the Punch, for instance, the Punch especially, the Punch newspaper's interview with him, that when the reporter asked him, to give a bit more detail, he says, so where was this very NJC? Where was it when he was going through his travels? But we've heard that, maybe some people are seeing this as something of an eye for an eye kind of a syndrome. We don't know. That even is speculative. So Reverend Dominic, weigh in on this matter before I go to David.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can I see your hands because I can't hear anything? Okay. Let me give you a composition here. Yeah, let me give you a composition here. There's a committee. Okay, there's a committee to sanitize Pentecostal Church in Nigeria. And you mentioned Reverend Dominic in that committee. You mentioned a bank, in quote, the kidnapper in that committee. You already haven't you passed a judgment on it? For Joseph Daoud to be part of that committee, when I had it, and I heard about Salami, I was watching what the man will react to. Joseph Daoud, if I can make my case clear, was one who presided over the death and the judgment that come against King Zoruba. Joseph Daoud was also the one who was defending the state president when we accused him of one thing or the other in the tribunal. And by today, federal government has seen that judgment. Joseph Daoud is still in the company of who is going to appeal court to defend the state president. Now, how do you put that composition? This man has shown us that the hope in Nigeria. For him to say no to this committee means that every Nigerian is not interested in come and job. Kudos that man, because that committee already from the start is a failure. Thank you, and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you, Reverend Dominic. Yes, indeed. That committee was criticized by some, let me not say many. Many saw it as Malaki indicated earlier, as something of a right move for the judiciary, NJC, especially in this, trying to vacuum, shall we say, its image. But more than a few people actually criticized the composition. So, David, your thoughts on this whole matter?
I think we shouldn't take Justice Salami's statement out of context. As short as that statement is loaded.
But the principle of it.
But where the people should not begin to assume that this is his own way of taking a revenge against the judiciary. That is the area where we need to be cautious. Because with that statement, you cannot really say that it's basically about that incident that happened a few years back. But I totally support the idea that this is a man of principle. This is a man that knows what it takes to be above board. And if he's invited to serve in a committee that his conscience cannot stand, so he has the right to reject.
Yes, I wonder why those
the appointments.
The appointees on that committee that lawyers, non-lawyers have observed are surprising choices for membership. I wonder why the NJC included them, but we'll come back to that. Ibrahim in Biu, good morning. Ibrahim, can you hear us? I suspect that you, Ibrahim.
Yeah, it's Ibrahim. I know I cannot hear you, but if you can hear me, signal it with your hand so that I will keep on talking. Okay. Justice Salami is a person that shows Nigerians that we, the youth, never think of, saying that people just like Justice Salami are still existing. As the young man in the studio says, that some Nigerians are there not to accept awards because of how things are happening in this country. As you can see, in these days we have been seeing a lot of stories of messed ups, minor issue, Baru and Ibekachuku, this and that. Please and please, why is it that the president is so quiet over all these issues? I know this is the contrary statements from what you people are discussing in the studio, but how could you put yourself in such positions to at least manage something like this, like such issues of minor and all the rest, to say you're going to judge and you have a lot of corrupt people who are in the cabinet? How will you cheer?
All right, Ibrahim.
Salami has the right to
Ibrahim.
control himself.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibrahim. Thank you for calling in. As you said, you are taking us off topic a bit, although it's within the much larger, shall we say, ambit of the war against corruption. Thank you very much for calling in. But what does this do, Daniel? Sorry for calling you David earlier. What does this do, Daniel, to the momentum, shall we say? Do you think it has an effect on it? Because bear in mind that there are those who criticize the composition of the committee initially, and now that this has happened.
This is a welcome development. There are many of us that expected him not to go ahead with this job.
Okay.
Based on the composition of the first instance, not even to talk about his
own reason.
Yes, so I think it's a good one. It's a welcome development that we can see people who can stand above board. We can see people who are not moved by all these appointments and positions. They are moved by their conscience. Their principles to do right things.
What do you think of Mr. George's idea, calling in from Ikeja, so very shortly after the beginning of the program, that, look, maybe Justice Salami might have continued with the job on the condition that, look, this is how I can be comfortable in there. In other words, virtually redoing what the NJC had done. I know you're not a lawyer, and it'll go to Malaki, but your thoughts on that, for Justice Salami or anyone in that position to say that, okay, I can serve, but these are my conditions. And the conditions would effectively be revising the work of the Chief Justice.
Well, I think the buck stops at the NJC's table. If they are truly committed
do you think of that? Okay.
Anti-corruption drive, especially this provision they are making from their own hand. Yes. If they are truly committed to it, I think they shouldn't just give up because of this.
So you might have...
They should talk to him, and perhaps if they have to change some of the members of this committee.
I think it's too late now, because it's too late now. But I think what you're saying is that, you know, that is possibly something that might have been considered. But I think it is too late
Possibly. It might have been considered, but what if they didn't even have any discussion about it?
Because Justice Salami has closed the gate. He has closed the gate on that.
But I think the way forward is for NJC to look for another chairman and look for more reputable people that can handle this job, because this job is a very delicate job.
No.
You want to oversee.
When you say more reputable, well, I mean, that shines a bit negatively on Justice Salami. We're not saying he's not reputable.
Not about Justice Salami. The people we've been complaining about.
Okay.
The other members. Because if Justice Salami rejects this offer and they want to go ahead, the public will still have issue with those individuals. So whoever they are bringing in to be the chairman of that committee,
they will expect that to be a concern.
Issue. That's the issue of trust.
But some other chairman,
just like
some other chairman
putting a lone sheep in the midst of wolves.
But conceivably, some other chairman might not have an issue with the with what Justice Salami had. After all, it is no less than the Chief Justice of the country that, you know, oversaw and approved the membership of that committee.
All of these developments will pan out and operate as a serious test to the will of NJC.
Okay, I got to go on a break, and I'm going to come back and you'll develop that idea that this is a test for the NJC. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back.